All right, everyone. Speaking with you tonight is Coach Jake Schoonover. He just completed his first season as the outside linebackers coach and special teams coordinator at Kansas, and he will be talking with you about his number 2 ranked kickoff coverage.
Good evening, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here. Spent a lot of years coaching the state of Illinois at Illinois State, and great appreciation for what's going on over there, as well as in Ohio, and grew up in Missouri, coaching in Kansas now. So Midwest in general, a lot of appreciation for the things done at each level, so at each high school around that area. So thank you for the opportunity to come speak. Like they said, we had a good year on kickoff. I got here last spring, right before the coaching change with Coach Miles and into Coach Leipold. Was fortunate enough to be kept on with Coach Leipold, and we did some things that just to change culture and things like that. And you could see it show up in special teams a little bit as we went along here. So pretty proud of the boys and what they did. Obviously, always room for improvement, but give you a little glimpse of some things we did here with kickoff. Let me pull this up and see, share my screen here, right? All right, start with our kickoff. First off, just going through our numbers and stuff, and just for any special teams guys out there would probably agree with me. Special teams numbers are probably some of the most leading things you'll see, just because there's so many subjective variables that play into it. But obviously, it's better to have good ones than bad ones. You see our kickoff team numbers there, just from what they were a year ago before this staff got here, to what they were this fall. Pretty proud of that. And biggest thing I always say about special teams is your special teams are a reflection of the character of your locker room. And obviously what I mean by that is the culture, the buy-in, the ability for guys to do things that may not get praised or may not get noticed, but obviously they help your team succeed. And so that kickoff team, did a great job this year. And we had 21 different guys run down on kickoff. We had the same kicker all year, thankfully, but 21 different guys run down on that due to injuries and just depth chart movement, stuff like that. So it was a good team effort. You see some other numbers there too, and they did a good job across the board. But pretty proud of the effort and the buy-in that we had here. Just talking about goals every week, just for our kickoff unit. Obviously, first off, no penalties. We want our average opponent starting field position to be the 25-yard line, which obviously is the yard line of a touchback. If you go back and look, our average on the season was around 24 yards. Kickoff defense average would be 18 yards or less, which obviously means if they catch the ball around the 7, you're getting to the 25. That's kind of what we're looking at there. 18 yards would have been very high as far as the country, national ranks. So that's a pretty lofty goal, and obviously this year we were able to achieve that. As you're talking to your team, we talk all the time about return teams. You need to have courage and loyalty to be on a return team. Courage as a returner, loyalty is anyone blocking for them. Your coverage teams are pride and passion. You have to have pride in what you're doing, in the importance of what you're doing, and pride in that name on the chest, obviously. And then passion. You can't play special teams unemotional. It's got to be an emotional. You have to control those emotions, but you have to be able to put some passion into how you play. Again, we talk all the time about our kickoff team, starting a fight. We're going to start the fight. We're going to throw the first punch, obviously within reason, within the game of football, but we're going to throw the first punch. We're going to be the tone setters of the team, send our defense in the field fast and with some juice. So, we talk about having a violent mentality. It's first play of defense every time, full speed, courage, accountability. Personnel needs to be fast, physical, and smart. Especially when we get into the breakdown of how we set up our scheme. We want to constantly teach them and help them understand when to apply our how to defeat a block rules, and then obviously our type of tackle. And then we want to try to get the football as often as we can. It all starts with the kick. So the second thing we always talk about is our kicker. Hang time, placement are critical to be an effective unit. Keep kickoff timing the same for coverage, depending on where you're putting it. We got to keep the timing the same and try not to give any tips or keys pre-kick to the opponent. And then we want to try to be inside the 30-yard line when the ball's caught. Now that's somewhat of a lofty goal, but we want to try to be inside that 30-yard line when the ball is caught, especially our first wave, which we'll get to more scheme here in a minute. But that's the kind of the mindset we're shooting for. We want enough hang time to where our coverage team can be the 30-yard line when the ball is caught. And obviously we have to have speed on the kickoff team to make that happen. You see down there, we're looking for 3.85 hang time. And, we talk about our flying 40s, trying to match with that as best we can there. All right, so really important, and really kind of started changing this the last couple of years on how to break this down and focus. Really important to establish your 3 zones of coverage. So for a kickoff team, that first zone is going to be the speed zone. Okay, and that speed zone is just like it sounds. You got to have speed. There should not be engagements of blocks. There should not be a stopping of any sort. It's speed, 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 speed. You'll hear me say to our guys all the time, the enemy of tackling is, and they all answer, space. The enemy of tackling is space. So in that speed zone, we're trying to take the space away from the returner. We know that returner is the best athlete in the field. We're trying to get him in a phone booth instead of an open field. So the enemy of tackling is space. That speed zone takes away their space. Because of that, we can't waste time engaging and disengaging with blocks in the speed zone. So it is speed, 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 speed. All right. And then as you get down, and it's kind of, it's dependent on the kick, but around that 30-yard line is the combat zone. Okay. And really the combat zone is really, around 10 to 15 yards from where the ball is going to be. But the combat zone, we put a rough line at the 30-yard line for the combat zone, meaning we're not in a position to make a tackle and the block is still with us or in front of us. Then you're going to have to learn how to engage and disengage with blocks. And we're going to do that in the combat zone. Then, of course, the finish zone is how we finish at the tackle. But we set our drill work up. We set our mindsets, our scheme up based off those 3 principles of speed zone, combat zone, finish zone. Okay, if you're going to look at a punt diagram, it would be the opposite. It would be combat first, the line of scrimmage, and then speed second. But just to help our kids continually think about what their mindset is in each of those zones. Okay, our coverage alignment. So a little bit of scheme here, but just to help understand what you're going to look at here in a minute. All right, we talk about, if you look over here on the left, you'll see kind of, I call them spots here, okay? We talk about general alignments. We want to have the ability to move, we'll go through each of our responsibilities here. We want to have the ability to move those people into different spots, but execute the same responsibility. Okay, so as you look at this, all right, you see LA and RA, left and right assassin. Okay, and those are just like they sound. We've kind of put violent names on them to help them understand. In this particular, in our general base alignment, they're aligned in the 1 spot. The 1 spot is excuse me, is bottom of the numbers. Okay, you see our H 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, those are our hitmen, our headhunters, our guys that, again, we're trying to put violent words on to help them have trigger a visual picture that we're going fast and we are on fire to the ball. Okay, in this particular picture, we have them in the 3 spot, the 5 spot, and then the 5 and the 3 on the opposite side. Okay, and then you see our C's, our left and right contain. Okay, they're in the 2 spot for this picture, but again, that their job will be like it sounds, contain the football. Just for this general picture, we're aligning them in the 2 spot. And you see our F's, our force fit fold players. Okay, and they are part of the second wave. All right, my point of showing this is to help understand that we can align these guys anywhere we want by building a template or building a communication system of okay, you're in the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 spot. So we talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now here's for this particular call, this is where you're going to align in this call. Okay, so we set it up like that. Okay, and the next picture here is just a live shot of that, of exactly what I'm saying there. Okay, where they align in those spots. All right, the only thing you'll notice here is that our H2, who's in our 5 spot, all right, he's just giving room for the kicker. So that'd be the only thing that's a little different. But just trying to give them a general basis, just like you would an offensive formation or even a defensive formation about, hey, on this call, each of your individual positions aligns in this spot. Okay. All right. And you see here, kick from the middle. I'm going to get back to that here in a minute. I want to go into technique first. Okay. So when we're in the speed zone, all right, we're in the speed zone. Again, first thing we're always talking about is speed. All right. But we're going to talk about how to avoid blocks in the speed zone. Okay. So we have 2 ways to do it. You have your face side or your butt side of that blocker. All right. We talked to our guys about a frontline kick return. kick return blockers should never be able to block you in a one-on-one. Now, obviously, if we flip it to kick return, we're going to say you got to win your one-on-ones. But as we're coaching the kickoff team, they should never be able to block you in a one-on-one. Okay, so the first way to beat that block is winning face side on that block, stacking back, and going attacking that returner and going back to the returner. The biggest focus to keep at all times is that the issue is not the block, the issue is the ball. We're trying to finish on the ball. All right, so I'm going to take the best path available to the ball, knowing that in the speed zone, I have plenty of time to get back in my line and finish on that ball. Okay. So when we avoid to the face side, just like it sounds, a face side of the blocker, we're going to try to freeze that blocker as best we can. And this is going to be applied where there's 20 or more yards between the block and the returner, which again would be in the speed zone. We're going to win face side. We can set the blocker up the head faded jab, anything like that, dip and rip through any kind of contact, run the hump and stack back into that lane. Okay. When we talk about the speed zone, typically these leverage blocks, these frontline blocks set up in that speed zone, but sometimes you don't fully beat them. All right. So how you're winning that with speed, if it lingers into the combat zone, right, into the combat zone that you have not gotten rid of them with your speed, all right, then you have to talk about ways to escape that block. Okay. So if you look down here at the bottom, you see we say strain here. Okay, we have two ways to beat a leverage block that started in the speed zone and continue to the combat zone. All right, one is strain, and it's just like it sounds. You continue to strain on your path, working your near hand to his near hand, trying to eliminate that blocker and stack. Okay, so a couple clips of how we practice that. Biggest issue, not issue, but just the thing you got to constantly be aware of when you do anything with special teams is constantly thinking and talking about how to limit stress on the legs and limit wear and tear. Okay, so we try to condense the field as best we can. So this is obviously, we have already closed space, or we've already started our run. We're going through the speed zone. So if you look at how we have these drills set up, okay, the biggest thing you'll notice is the stagger. So you see our return team coming into the speed zone, into a position to make the block. You see the ball carrier is offset with away from the blocker. Okay, again, the reason we do this is to try to help the coverage man understand that the emphasis is the ball, not the block. So we're constantly trying to work on finishing on the ball and to the ball. Okay, so you see we're giving that jab, we're giving that setup. Ball carrier probably leaves a little soon here on the right, but you're giving that jab, that setup, and continuing on to that ball. So we're talking about avoiding face side to the block. Seems pretty self-explanatory and pretty simple, but we just want to eliminate the idea that we're running into blocks as much as we can. Okay, so avoiding face side. All right, now here you can see, like I said, we're winning face side through the speed zone. That speed zone, you don't get cleared of him. All right, you don't get cleared of him. So now you're exiting the speed zone, you're getting into that combat area, and you haven't cleared that leverage block yet. Okay, so what is plan B now? All right, so now we're simulating that you're at the end of the speed into the combat, okay, and you are straining to finish. So as we're watching the man closest to us here, that man is on my hip. I can't clear him. I'm going to constantly work my hands, trying to get my hip by his hip. I try to use cross-sport analogies as best I can. So we talk about beating a man off the bounce in basketball. How I got to clear my hip to his hip, so all he has is my back. It's the same thing. I'm going to strain to that finish. I'm going to work to stack, and I'm going to finish in that ball carrier. Okay, so we're working on what happens if I don't clear in the speed zone. It lingered on. I'm getting in the combat zone. I'm not free yet, and now I have to continue on. Obviously, you can see we did this without helmets on, and a walk-through tempo, a little sped up walk-through tempo, but we can still get it done without collisions and without a lot of strain on the legs. All right, so just to look at that strain, all right, you see our H1 here, who's in the 3 spot, kind of what we're trying to get done here. Okay, all right, you see him, you see where the ball is in relation to the man. All right, he has a direct path to the man. There's no reason to avoid butt side yet because the ball is still here. All right, so he continues on through face side. All right, now he's exited the speed zone. He's in the combat zone. All right, he is not completely cleared yet. You can see him work his right arm to try to strain, right? So that he gets cleared of that block, that leverage block. He's in position to make this play. Now he doesn't make it, but you see what we're working on with our winning face side, working to strain to finish. And we're either going to make a play or we're going to make the ball spit back to whatever else is coming. All right, so it's a good look at winning face side with and straining the finish. Okay, the second way to beat a block, all right, is winning butt side. Okay, when that that again, that ball is set behind the returner, offset, winning butt side, or we say backdoor, trying to win to the ball. Okay, all the same things still apply. We're talking about freezing with our angle. We're talking about head faking a jab, dip and rip, and avoiding a butt side. Only thing that may be different or a different option is if you don't get completely cleared, instead of straining and continuing on the same way, we talk about swiping. All right, you can swipe that block back to the best path to the ball. Okay. All right. Again, same setup of how we would set that up. We're just going to flip the block a different direction. All right. And again, we're not working any collisions on this particular drill, this particular rep. We're working on ripping through butt side. Again, the focus is on the ball, not the block. So we're talking about how to attack the ball and the best angle to the ball as we go. All right. Again, pretty simple, ripping through that contact, finishing on that near hip. One more thing, and I'm not going to get into tackling here, but every drill we do, we try to finish with a detailed focus on the tackle. Okay. So obviously, real quick hit, you have 3 types of tackle. You have a profile, you have a hawk, or a hawk roll, or some people may call it chest, thigh, or gator roll, whatever you want to call it. Okay. But the point, I always talk about aim small, miss small, be specific with your eyes. So as we're being specific with our how to take on blocks, how to avoid blocks, all those things, we also got to be detailed with our tackling, because a lot of these guys are offensive players and don't get a lot of tackling reps. So we're going to use every opportunity we can to teach them how to tackle. So in a lot of these reps, you'll see our guys tagging that hip. All right. We have coaches standing behind. You're trying to get a coach at each portion of the drill. I can find my mouse here. We have coaches standing behind to watch his eyes, to make sure his eyes are finishing on that hip at all times. We want specific eyes on that hip. All right. If we're doing a actual thud up drill, we'll say eyes on the V of the neck. But if it's a tag tempo finish, then we want to see eyes on the hip. We want to see him put his hands exactly where his eyes are on his finish on the tackle. Okay. So now, all right, we talked about winning face side, winning butt side. Okay. Now we're trying to simulate that I tried to win butt side or maybe face side. It doesn't matter. It could happen either way. All right. And that blocker, I can't strain to that finish. That blocker is too high on me. I'm entering the combat zone. I exited the speed zone. All right. So we're talking about swipe now. They're high on me. I can't finish with a strain or he'll wash me out. So I swipe with that, in this picture, that left arm, that near arm. Okay. And I pull him across my body. I can go over the top or rip, whatever is the best available. All right. I'm going to get my hip back by his hip and stack back on that block. Okay. So we call this a swipe. All right. He is too high on me. I finish back. I pull him across. I swipe him across. I finish back to that near hip. All right. So a good look at a quality swipe here. He doesn't end up making the tackle, but he would have if it hadn't been tackled beforehand. All right. So again, you see him working down the field. All right. The guy gives him kind of he gives him a fool's butt side. So you see him avoid that butt side. All right. The guy flips his hips back. All right. Now he's got a new butt side. So he swipes across, he pulls him across, and he regains his hips to be in a position to make that tackle. Obviously didn't quite get to him, but I do believe he would have made it even if it hadn't got tripped up first. All right. So again, speed through the speed zone. All right. You're winning face side or butt side, wherever the best route is to the ball. All right. Once you make that decision, if you don't get him cleared as you enter the combat zone, then you can strain or swipe to that finish on the ball. But again, the issue is always the ball. The focus is always the ball. Okay. So those are our two speed zone applications or techniques to apply and how to avoid blocks in the speed zone. So we're not getting held up a long distance away from the ball. So we can continue to take away space from the ball carrier because we know the enemy of tackling is space. Okay. Now we're talking about a bully. Okay. A bully will be utilized in the combat zone. It should never be utilized in the speed zone. It's going to be in the combat zone. Okay. Meaning I'm taking on typically a back end defender. And that block is head up on where I'm trying to go and where that returner is. Okay, we say 10 yards, depending on what's happening. We can stretch that a little bit to 12 to 15 if necessary, but 10 is kind of where we set it out for practice purposes. But we're saying we're 10 yards away from that blocker is 10 yards away from returner. If we pick a side immediately, we create creases or seams, and that returner is able to go vertical. So we're saying we're going to bully. We're going to put hat in hands. We're going to put our forehead on his chin, or our eyes on his chin, so we have better pad level. All right, we're going to talk about hots, and hots is hands on the sternum. Hots, we're going to shoot our hots with our thumbs up, our elbows in, so that we can be in a dominant position with our hands. All right, we're going to get extension before we get separation. Okay, so again, we're going to extend our hands so that we can separate our body. All right. So we were just talking about shooting our hots, talking about our pad level. We're talking about trying to keep our hips loaded, and we're going to try to extend off that block. Okay. So to do this, we stagger it out. We tier it out, the teaching of it. We start engaged. Again, our eyes on his chin. All right. We're in a elbow bent position, thumbs up, elbows in. All right. We're going to extend so that we can separate. All right. Extend so we can separate. You see, we start 10 yards behind the purpose of the drill. Once the back declares, then we separate that direction. It's not a predetermined declare. All right. So again, you get extension so you can get separation. Thumbs up, elbows in. We talk about shooting our hots, which means hands on the sternum. Then as we take it from space, all right, you set up we set up a dummy. I've done this a few different ways, but this year we set up a dummy so you can rip through that initial, that speed zone. Maybe it's a strain, swipe, whatever it may be with that speed zone. All right. Then we're going to bully the next line of defense, that back end block. Bully, meaning we're going to shoot our hots. All right. We're going to keep our hips loaded, our feet active. Our hands are going to end up above our eyes at times, especially with a bag. All right. And then once that ball carrier declares, then we're going to finish in that tackle. Okay. When we use these rollers, okay, we talk about two types of tackles. All right. And I know I said I'm not going to get a tackling, but I'm a defensive guy and I can't help it. All right. So we set them into three different mindsets of tackling. When that man is coming downhill on you and you have him in a tight space, that's when we utilize profile or chest tackle. Okay. And obviously you can always use a hawk, especially for smaller guys where you're going through the thighs. All right. If you have the man in a 45-degree angle and you're still in a quality leverage position, okay, then we're working our eyes to that near eyes to the thighs drive for 5. All right. And we're going to try to get his feet stopped and keep our feet active. Okay. If he's running away from our leverage, he's broken our leverage, he's working lateral, then we talk about, the hawk roll, gator roll, working to roll to our leverage into his legs and stop his momentum. Okay. So when we use the rollers, we're talking about the same things. Okay. So it's very important for us to teach the manners in this picture how to roll those rollers. Okay. Right here, we're trying to get a hawk tackle or a thigh tackle used. So we're going to tackle the front half of the bag so that our players, our tacklers understand that I'm in a leverage position of this bag. It is not rolling away from me. It is rolling somewhat downhill so I can still make a firm tackle on that near hip. Okay. So that's how we talk about, when we talk about finishes, we're talking about a hawk tackle or a thigh tackle in this particular picture. Okay. So here it is again, same thing. We're going to rip through that front line through the speed zone. Okay. We're going to strike, shoot our hots, our elbows up, our elbows in, our thumbs up. We're going to get extension so we can get separation. We're going to tackle the front of that bag to try to simulate we're in a 45-degree angle. We're still in a leverage, a controlled position. And we're going to finish on the front half of that bag. Okay. All right. Now put it into play here. You see a guy running down who's going to get in a bully position and what we're trying to get done. He's taking on a back end defender. That defender is almost exactly 10 yards from the returner. Okay. If he declares a one way or another, it could give us issues and let that turner get north, but instead he's going to run through his face. He's going to get extension with his arms, his hands, right? And be in a position to come off that block and in this case, finish the tackle. All right. So that is our bully zone. Okay. And how we're going to, that's a combat zone and a bully technique. Okay. So again, in the speed zone, we have avoid face side, avoid butt side. If you get carried into, if it drags into the combat from the speed, then we talk about straining and swiping our finish. Okay. If we make contact in the combat zone for the first time, the ball carrier is directly behind the blocker, then we talk about a bully until we can declare, the ball carrier declares and we can separate to the ball carrier. Okay. Other things, and we don't get this a lot because of our scheme, but other things we can see are double teams, or we will see our double teams. Okay. So we have two different ways to take on a double team that we teach as plan A. All right. We can split the double team or we can slip the double team. Okay. In this particular look, we're talking about split. All right. So we always we try to identify a post and a pin of the double team for the return team. Okay. And we're always going to talk about moving the post and when to the pin. Okay. Typically the pin is where they're trying to hit the return. So we're going to move the post to create a variable or indecision with the double team. And in this case, create space in the double team. All right. And we're going to try to dip and rip through the crease and the space created when we try to split. Okay. It's never a predetermined thing. You're going to read, if you have grass, you take that grass. If they're closed, then we'll slip it. So again, we're starting with stick and split. Okay. We're going to move the post We're gonna try to split. All right, again, we're trying to condense the field as much as we can when we do this. You try to make a declared post. Looking down here first, try to make a declared post and a pin. So we stagger those cones just a little bit to try to set that up so it's not a simultaneous. We're going to move the post. We're going to split the double. Okay, move the post, try to create space, low pad level, split the double. We're going to finish in a near foot compression on that cone. Okay, again, moving the post. You see over here on the right. I lost my drawing tool. There we go. All right, we're going to move the post. We're gonna try to win to the pin. So you see this post move, bam, and then we go. All right, so that'll be a split. You'll see it. You'll see an example here. Now this ends up being a touchback, but it's a good example of splitting these double teams. All right, you see over here on the left, number 14. Rewind it so you see the shadows here. You see him work to the post, all right, and then he splits the double team with pad level, and he gets a little chippy here at the end. Okay. Again, same thing with number 32 here. They're going to set more of a back end double on him, but it's the same mindset. He's going to split through the double team, keep his feet active, and finish on through. Okay, now if I try to split it and I get caught, which can happen, right? Then we go into plan B of splitting the double team. We're going to say you're going to push it. You're going to push the pin. All right, so again, I'm going to move the post. I'm going to try to win to the pin. In this particular one, I'm going to split it. I saw space. I went and I tried to split it. The double team closed faster than expected. All right, the pin got on me, got hands on me, and I couldn't get off. So now I'm going to try to push the pin because we know that the pin is typically where the return's going. And we don't want the double team removed from the alley. When the alley is the space they're trying to hit the return. Okay, we want to, if the very worst case scenario, we want the double team to be in the alley so that it creates clutter for the returner. Okay, so we're going to win. We're going to push the pin and try to stay in the alley as best we can. All right, so just a quick example of us doing that. We see that we didn't get as much space as we expected. So now we're going to try to win to the pin, and what we're doing again, I'm sorry. We're going to try to push that double team and stay in the desired alley until we can get off that double team. All right, so it's a good example here. Particularly on the right, okay? Particularly on the right. You see the pin coming, all right? He got stuck, so now he's going to push to that pin, all right, and try to get back into that finish. All right, again, just a real quick example here of it. Doesn't get off and make the play, but keeps the double team in the alley. You see he makes contact with the post, and right there he fights back to the pin. He's gonna try to push and stay in that alley as best he can so we can create clutter. So that we can create traffic in the alley with what we're doing. Okay. So again, you stick and split if you have grass. If you get stuck, you push. All right. The typical one is that you're going to slip it, meaning the blockers are too tight. So I'm going to try to slip and win to the pin and then stack back behind. Okay. All the same things apply. Move the post, win to the pin, but we're going to slip. We're going to slip the pin basically butt side. Okay, so you see, look at it. He's moving the post. Here comes the pin. He rips through it and stacks winning butt side on the pin. Obviously, we're putting this in condensed space here, so you don't have as much space to set it up as you would over the course of the full field here. I apologize for the graininess of the film here, but you're going to see what we're trying to get done here. Okay, so you see 30 here. See 30 right here, in our left on the hash. See him slip that pin and stay in a position to make that play. All right, obviously it sets up a little deeper on him than normal. You see what we're trying to get done here, slipping through it and finishing to that play. Okay, another one for you. Again, this is a second line. Now this is one of the best special teams players I've ever had. Number 25 right here. He actually tore his Achilles in pregame. I think it was week 6. So I lost him for about half the year, but he was absolutely dynamite before he got hurt. But you see him again. You see the double team set here from the back end. And teams got to where they actually were changing their schemes to double him. You see him slip that pin, stack, and finish back on the play. It's pretty impressive when you make a play on the 20-yard line when you were supposed to be doubled. Okay, so those are kind of the techniques that we're going to apply throughout. We got one more technique thing to talk about here, but this is kind of the first first part of our scheme-based portion of this. So I told you earlier, we break our whole kickoff team into different responsibilities. We're talking about the assassins. Okay, we'll have 2 assassins on the field. I can line them up anywhere in the formation, and they're going to execute the same assignment. All right, whichever side we're kicking to, the boundary assassin, he's going to work to the opposite hip or the field hip of the returner. The field assassin is going to work to the near hip, meaning wherever we kick the ball, we're going to try to keep the ball in that space in a smaller field. Okay, anything they're taking the best path to the ball, but if a block shows, they're going to try to spill it and make the ball go flat. Okay, all right. The way we talk about that, stem and spill. Okay. Again, if I can take a great path to the ball, take it with no regrets. Meaning, if I take that path and they do get me kicked out, no problem. We got people making you right. But if I have a way, if I cannot get, or if I know I can't get around that block, then I'll spill it and try to get the ball to go east and west. If we're talking about stem and spill here. So again, that'll only mainly apply to the back end. We're taking on back end blocks. All right, we're going to try to rip through any block we get and get back vertical again to make that ball spit outside. All right, so you see just again, not an extremely up-tempo way to practice it because we don't want a lot of collisions in our drill work, but you see what they're trying to get done. All right, that blocker is clearly in between my path to the ball, in that straight line. If I continue to run out, it's going to get washed too far. He's going to be allowed to hit that vertical crease. So we're going to work back inside that block, right, to make sure it's spitting to our contain. Meanwhile, on the other side of the other part of this drill is we're constantly working tracking. All right. So again, he is constantly putting a laser on the near hip of that returner. Okay. And we're talking about contains, which we'll get to them more in a minute. But since we're watching the drill, all right, the contain to the ball. All right. The contain to the ball is always going to keep that ball on his inside shoulder, obviously. All right. Our contains are taught they are not going inside the 30-yard line until they have a direct path to the ball. Okay. So they will stop at the 30 until they get a direct path to the ball and the ball shows. So you see them work the throttle, all right, the ball shows, so then he triggers. On the backside, all right, he's going to work flat down that 30-yard line, attempting to keep the ball 15 yards on his inside shoulder. Okay, our coverage lanes, you'll see another scheme look here in a minute. It is not designed off landmarks on the field. It's a relationship landmarks with their teammates. So when we talk about 15 yards, we got to keep firm with that and keep our depth so that the ball spits, we're able to press and control. If the ball pushes vertical, we're able to fold right down that 30-yard line. And that's what we're trying to get done here with all 4 defenders. But the point of this is first the spilling and knowing who we're spilling to. All right, so get a quick example of it. He actually works inside. Texas did a good job with they recognized what our coverage was, and they did a good job matching up our hots. You see, they try to match up our assassin here with one of their frontline defenders, and he still gets it spilled and gets the back end spilled and obviously trips him up, makes a play inside the 20-yard line. So that's a heck of a job understanding what we're trying to get done. Another look at it, you just saw this clip a minute ago, and I think there's a couple repeat clips on here, but there's multiple technique things that are quality here, so I want to show them. This is actually, I don't know if anyone followed our team closely on here, but this is our second half of the year. This is our starting running back. This was his first game of his career as a true freshman. He ran down on our kickoff to start and ended up being a great running back for us this season. But you can see what he's doing. He's trying to spill this block to make sure this ball spits east and west. Our contain does not go inside the 30 until the ball shows. You see him start to creep now a little early, but he gets that ball on the ground at 23-yard line as the contained player. That's what we're looking for. Okay. Again, that happened because great hang time, number one, and our assassin and some other guys too. But our assassin's able to spill this ball and get that ball going east and west so he can close. It's a great job by number 4, Devin Neal, getting that ball spilled. Okay. All right. Now, as we're breaking our coverage into different components here, we talk about assassins and how they're hot to the ball. Okay. Now we get into our pods. Okay. Our headhunters, our hitmen, or whatever you want to call them, the H's. All right. They can align anywhere in the formation and still execute the same assignment. All right. They're always going to end up in 2 pods. So our H1, H2, H3, H4. Okay, the H's are hot to the ball. Take the best path to the ball. All right. Try to keep on our finish. We want the ball on our inside shoulder. That is it. So our H1, H2 would put it on their right shoulder. H3, H4 would put it on their left shoulder. But that's all we care about is put the ball on your inside shoulder. Okay, on the finish. Now on the path to get there, they can take the best path available because they know that they have force fit fold players working with them. So you see our LF and our RF are going to work with them and make them right. All right. So essentially what we're going to do, and you're going to see the whole coverage here in a minute, we're essentially creating a cover three, a defensive cover three alignment. All right. We have our assassins working off the edge. You have your D lineman, your H2s. Your assassins are basically your force players, whether it be your sky force or backer force, whatever it may be. Your H1, H2, H3, H4 are your D line, a 4 down front, a D line working through their lanes. Your forces are your linebackers, and then you got your corners and your middle field safety as your kicker. Okay. But I digress. All right. We're working on pods here. So we're working on those near hips. Okay. And the force is going to make them right. All right. Again, force, fit, full. So as you look at this, if you're looking at my force, just the drawing here, if this ball were to work wide, then we're going to force that ball because it worked to us and it worked outside our pod. If these hits were to get split, all right, then we're going to fit in between those hitmen or those headhunters, okay, the inside of our pod. If the ball were to run away from me, then I will fold to it. Okay, and it works the same thing for both pods. They're all married. Again, it's relationship lanes. This actually marries very similar to our punt coverage as well, which is why I went to this kick coverage after a few years of the same punt coverage. All right, so we're trying to simulate this. I'll do this a couple different ways. Sometimes I'll just work this without a blocker on it for him, for that force fit fold player, just to let him get a feel early when we install it. We'll do it that way. All right, but we're trying to simulate a strain or swipe scenario here on our hit players, or our hot players. Okay, trying to simulate a strain or swipe scenario. So they're engaged. We want to tell those blockers to change up their leverages, whether it be high or low on the hip, whatever it may be, so we get a strain or a swipe. All right, and then we're working a bully with the force fit fold. Okay, that bully will not go until that ball carrier declares or until a pod declares. Okay, as I'm talking to the force fit fold players in the back end, all right, I'm always telling this man that ball overrides pod. Okay, so the ball will tell you where you need to go. Right, on the way to the ball, understand how the men in front of you fit. Okay, so as this man's clearing, separating, and seeing the ball, he knows that one of his hitmen, one of his hots, okay, they won outside. He feels that this man won outside, so he is going to fit inside. All right, now, if anyone gets in front of me, obviously I don't stack him. I continue to work to that near hip with the best path to that ball. Okay, again, so we're working strain and swipe. All right, you see right now, right off the bat, our man here gets washed very wide. So that force fit fold player knows I better be alert for a fit because they worked wide. All right, same thing. He's straining outside on our left as we're looking at it. So bam, he's going to fit inside that pod, working back to that hip. All right, we do some different snake and different scheme things. So sometimes we'll start this pod. We'll make the force player start outside the pod, and he'll have to loop into it and read it, working both vertical and horizontally. So here's a good look at it. We got a swipe coming from the man on our left. So that force player knows I need to throttle down and make sure I get back across the face of that ball. All right, so they're constantly understanding their relationship to the ball relative to the relationship with their teammates. Okay, so we're looking at a pod here. All right, this man doesn't end up making the play, but it's a good look at what we're trying to get done. All right. Our first wave. Okay, so you see our first wave running down here. It's a pretty good look at it. All right, we got six men running in the first wave. All right, we have our assassin. Okay, and then we have our hitmen right here. All right, and then we have our other assassin. Okay. All right, then we have our force fit folds. Okay, we have our contains. We're going to talk about containing the triangle with the kicker here in a minute. All right, but you see the pods forming, in particular the inside. Okay, the assassins aren't affected by the pods. They're just hot to the ball. They be as disruptive as they can. All right, now this isn't as I'm looking at the right pod here, as the shadow showed. I'm looking at the right pod. They don't avoid how I would have preferred them to avoid as they're running down, particularly number 80. He avoids too wide. But again, we want him to play fast. And by what 41 is taught to do, it allows 80 to play fast. So they get in the stack position. It actually looks like a twist, and he's able to fold into that crease and disrupt that crease. Okay, in this particular one, he smoked the dude and got him tripped up. Okay, he folds into that crease based off what he does there. Okay, another look at at our pod here. This was actually the longest return of the season, but it was a blatant hold here on the left that created the return. All right, you see 18 would have he got hog-tied down there in Texas. So, but you see again the pod of what's happening here. Now this is a different scheme call. We put our force in a different position. We call this far. We put him in a different spot. All right, I'll show you how we label those here in a minute. But you see him working off his pod. He sees they both are working face side. All right, he feels that, so he folds, and he always keeps his ball arm free as he works to that ball. Now he misses the tackle. You can see again, this is the longest return gave up in the year, but it actually came back because of the hold. But you see how the scheme was at play there. Okay, the last component of our coverage is our triangle fit. Okay, and that is between our contain and our kicker. And we want to see a clean triangle on that ball. The kicker's going to put his nose in the ball, always teaching the kicker to look for the double team and see where the double team is, because that's where the ball is trying to hit, particularly on the outside of that double team. Okay, the contain to the ball is going to put the ball on his inside shoulder. Depending on the width of the ball, he may be 15 yards outside, but it could be a smaller space because if we put the ball in the alley or the numbers, we're in good shape. If you're away from the ball, meaning I'm to the field, okay, then I want to put the ball 15 yards on my inside shoulder. All right. And again, they don't go inside the 30 unless the ball shows. They're trying to keep themselves alive for cutback. Can't get too much depth. All right. Again, apologize here. This is back to that same clip. I had a couple good looks at this. Apologize for the film quality here. All right. Again, you see our triangle. It's a quick hit here. All right. You see our triangle form there between our three players. Working all the way to our contains. Bad drawing skills here. Sorry. All right, with our kicker there. Okay, and that triangle is just going to constrict that ball and put their noses on that ball. You see our backside contain working straight down that line to keep himself alive, never turning his hips too far, squaring back up at the end there. Okay. All right, so that's kind of a breakdown of each component of our coverage and the techniques we talk about. Now talking more about scheme. Not this season with Kansas, my last year at Bowling Green. I moved the ball to the middle of the field, and it was the first time I'd ever done that. I've always been of the talk that the line of thinking that you want to constrict the boundary as much as you can. So we're going to put the ball where we kick the ball in the corner. And I still get that, and I'm still trying to do that. But we put the ball in the middle of the field for a few different reasons. One, the opponent has to prepare returns from multiple areas. It would be deep left, deep right, pooch, all those things. All right. Most teams have a front side and a back side of their return. If we can identify that, we can kick it to the back side of the return to get them off rhythm. Obviously, you can eliminate dangerous returners in that respect as well, trying to keep it away from their dangerous returner, which we did a couple of times this year. If we put a ball away from a return or away from a return, you're going to get off rhythm return, or you're simply going to get a fair catch. Okay, we had 52 kickoffs this year. We had a very good kicker. He had, on paper, had 35 touchbacks, but in reality, he had about 25 touchbacks because 10 of those balls, based off where they thought we were kicking the ball, got into the end zone because they couldn't get to it. Okay, so we're basically trying to take plays off of our kickoff coverage's plate. And with where we are right now from a personnel standpoint at Kansas in relation to the Big 12, it's extremely important for us because we have to limit the amount of dangerous returners' opportunities to impact the game. So we're trying to do that. Okay, and then the last thing is in the speed zone, we want space. All right, we want to create space for us to win our one-on-ones. All right, so if we constrict the field too soon, even if you win your one-on-one, you can get picked off and trash. So we stretch the field by putting the ball in the middle to make that front line of KOR, their block, much harder because now they're doing it with space with no one to help them. They're on a complete island. And then as we get into the combat zone, now we're going to constrict that ball, constrict the formation, and take the space and the air out of that ball. Okay, so that's the reasons we kick from the middle. All right, just to give you a few examples here. We went deep right here. Okay, everyone's got a great returner in this league. There's no doubt about it. Typically, their off returner is also dangerous, but we're going to make that guy beat us instead of number 5, that great returner beat us. Okay, this particular look, we put that ball very wide. Question, could have been out of bounds if he hadn't touched it. I'll admit that. Right, but we made the guy make a play and a decision. Right, he goes over there, tries to field the ball, bam, knocks the ball out to the 2-yard line. Okay, so we're trying to, instead of letting this dude beat us down here in the corner, number 5, all right, we're going to make somebody else make a decision, make a play, and test their football IQ. Okay. All right. The very next kick, because we showed that we kick it deep left, well, now those returners start stacked. And this is what I was talking about a minute ago, about touchbacks that may not have actually been touchbacks. Now they start stacked because they're nervous about kicking it either way. Well, now our guy hits and we have a kind of a system. We talk about where to kick the ball. Now our man kicks it deep left. All right. And it's a line drive. And if that returner was standing in his previous alignment in this alley, and he catches this thing on a line drive, they got business. All right. But because of our ability to spray the ball because of where we place it, the returner can't catch that ball cleanly. Ball bounces on the floor, but it's a touchback. All right. So we're going to try to take plays off of our coverage units plate and limit plays that their returners can affect the game. All right. This one was kicked a little wider. You see the 10-yard line. That's off rhythm. If they do try to return it, it's going to be disjointed. We're going to have unblocked men running down there very fast. All right.
So hey, Coach, you got a little less than 5 minutes.
Okay, great. We got a fair catch there. Okay. And then the last one here, Oklahoma, obviously have dangerous players. Same thing. Put it away from their return. Doesn't even mess with it because it's too off schedule. Okay. Had a few other things to show, just, again, how we align, how we work. I want to get into more questions than I would this scheme. Obviously, I have this available if anybody needs it. Just the ways we kick the ball, different ways to align, all those kind of things, but it all kind of marries what we're talking about here. Okay. So I will unshare that, stop that share. And are there any questions? Any questions of anything? Nope, no questions. Well, if you're still recording, then I'll just finish what I'm. Is that okay, Zach? Just to finish that, Keith. Well, there's no questions, and I'll finish that up real quick, and they can just have they can have that instead of me just staring at the screen. All right. So again, just different ways. This is the same rep from earlier, but this is called FAR, meaning we're going to align, our forces are going to line farthest away. Our force players are going to line farthest away from where we're kicking the ball within their pod. Okay. So you see, as you're looking here, our left force is on the outside now of H2, H3, right force is away from where we're kicking the ball. So FAR means force away. Okay. Again, just ways to code things. All right. Deep left face. Now we're talking about snaking, moving laterally and hitting that thing at a different time to screw up the look or the count for the kickoff team. All right. So you see in this particular picture, our FAC, our force assassin contain face are going to snake laterally. So you hit that thing on the run to where we're kicking the ball. Our H3, H4, you see them moved up slightly. So they give the force room to clean. And then our left force and right force, as they're working down the field, are going to switch pods. Okay. We do this to draw out a double team, or to work away from, to try to pull them out of the alley and add a body to the alley. So you see how we're working here. You see you see us pull in this particular look here. You see 32 from the left, work to the right, pull his man out, and we replace him with 41 into that pod, into that work, obviously as a touchback. All right. You see hit and our assassin working a lateral movement to where we're kicking the ball. Okay. Again, another touchback here, but you're just seeing the rhythm of what we're doing, the timing of what we're doing, and why we're doing it. Just trying to get guys hot to the ball, again, trying to screw up counts. It's going to be the same for us, but look different for them. All right, deep right hiss, same thing, opposite way. All right, center, this was really good for us. And a lot of these are, game plan scenarios for what we're seeing. We used a little different back end fit here with this because this was particularly Oklahoma State and what they did with their return. They're a very good kick return unit. But again, we're trying to pull the double team out, trying to get extra hats into that alley. So again, you see us, we're working a full snake from the right. We put our contains on the inside. That's what we call it, center C in the middle, contains in the middle. And they pulled this front side double team on our left as we're looking at it. They pulled them clear out of the mix. We added an extra hat into that alley. And obviously we worked that back end fit that you just saw in our drill, our back end drill. And we get them down on the 18-yard line. That time, Oklahoma State, I believe, was number 8 in the country, KOR, going into this game. So you see just kind of different ways we're gonna do the same thing we do. It's not gonna be different for our guys other than where they align, but it's gonna look different to the other team. And it's gonna make them think on the run, on the fly. Okay, and then again, when you mix in moving the ball around, that's another part of it. This was a pooch for us. Pooch is we're gonna line the forces away from where we're kicking it. And in this particular one, we put this ball, we're trying to aim for the 28-yard line. On the numbers, we had a pretty good wind working this day. He put it a little bit deeper than we'd want, but ends up in a great spot for us. Again, hats on the ball, getting them on the ground. Okay, and then our onside look. I won't get too depth here, but triple onside, we're just trying to find open grass to kick the ball. In this particular rep, this only rep we've had at it. We're just trying to put the ball in grass, gets a touch touch too much hang time, and the returner makes a phenomenal play, catches the ball on the run. But seeing what we're doing with that, yeah, so that's our onside kick. That's a whole nother discussion, but wanted to show it as well just because it is a kickoff meeting. So any again, any questions, anything with that? Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and talk. Again, my name is Jake Schoonover. My email address is jschhoon@ku.edu. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Always love talking ball. I'm always up for if any high schools want to come sit down with us, want to do a Zoom, just one-on-one, anything like that. Any coaches want to talk ball, do that kind of stuff, I'm all for it all the time. Please let me know. I'm all about making your team better and obviously hopefully picking up something to help make our team better as well. So appreciate your time and rock chalk.